Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today we're cutting this stunning opal that comes from Lightning Ridge, Australia, the home and the heart of the black opal. I will be cutting this stone for my own private collection. As you can see, it's a very rare gem. It's got Chinese writing pattern, which is one of the rarest. It has ribbon pattern, broad flash, and many others. You can see it's got red, blues and greens in the face. This is the stone while it's dry. And this is the stone wet. So you can see roughly what it looks like when it's going to be polished. I've been looking forward to cutting this for a while, and I've had it left as a rub, waiting to have the perfect time to film a video to share the process with you all. So thank you for tuning in. Grab a cup of tea or a coffee or some sort of drink and enjoy the video. This is a gem to never forget, and I'm so glad it's joining my collection. Whilst I play the footage of me dopping the opal in the background, I'll explain the origins of this stone. I've bought this stone from an opal miner I've not bought opal off before, and when I saw he had this for sale, I knew I had to get my hands on it. One of the very few things I knew my collection was missing was an opal that had Chinese writing, or what some call script pattern. It's a very, very rare pattern, and some of you may have already seen it from videos, for example, from Justin over at Black Opal Direct. It's one of those elusive patterns that almost looks like ancient scripture scored into the stone from those millions of years that it's spent underground. I bought the opal as a rub, so unfortunately I wasn't able to cut it from the rough myself, but that doesn't matter. I needed a script pattern stone for my collection, and this is one of the best I've ever seen. It's got so many other patterns in it, and I can't wait to just have it there for me to look at always. It's important for me now to make sure that when I've dopped the opal, it's absolutely straight. I want to make sure that this opal has no imperfections. So the dome needs to be perfect and all the inclusions need to come out of the face. It's been a very long time since I've cut an opal that I know is going into my collection. And I'm going to enjoy this cut. So I need a nice cup of coffee, I need the lucky hat to accompany me, and then I need to move on to the workshop and in front of those cutting wheels to bring this stone to life. I'm going to do most of the work on the 600 grit wheel. The stone has already been rubbed down to this grit, so I don't need to go back to the 400. I don't have major changes to make. You're going to see me a lot working on one particular region of the stone, and that's near the top. It is already looking like a pear shape or a teardrop shape, but I just need that point of the top to come across just slightly because it's not lined up with the center. I don't want to make too much of a change to this area, but I know if I don't make it as perfect as possible, I'm going to notice it every time I see the stone, so I need to make sure it's perfect. It's important, of course, for me to make a very good setting edge. Although I'm not setting the opal into jewellery right now, it could be something I do in the future, but all opal cabochons, and all cabochons in general, need a really nice setting edge that's even all the way over the dome. That's why you see me moving the stone very fast over the wheel, to make sure it's all smooth and one nice texture. I've just bought this head-mounted loop, and it's the first time I'm using it. It might make me look like a bit of a mad scientist, but they're very, very useful. It saves me having to hold the loop in one hand and maneuver the stone in the other. By having it mounted to my head, I can pull it down whenever I need and freely maneuver the stone to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I can also change the magnification. Now that I've inspected the stone thoroughly, I of course need a sip of coffee. Now back to cutting. Here we are on the final wheel, the 3000 grit wheel. The purpose of this wheel is to basically give us a good base to add our final polish. It takes out all the scratches left behind by the 600 grit wheel and gives it a perfect pre-polish. It also removes any remaining hard edges left behind. That's why I'm moving the stone fast over the wheel to knock out any of those final remaining ridges that you might see on the stone and making it one smooth dome. I'm going to show you a close-up of the stone in the shade in a second. It's really out of this world. I'm going to use fresh cerium oxide for this opal because I know it deserves it. A quick mix with water to make the perfect blend, and I'm going to paste it onto the polishing wheel. The polishing stage is incredibly satisfying because all of your hard work and perfection on the previous grits really shows off when it has that mirror shine. I will be cutting the back of the stone to make it more even, but first I'm going to show you a before shot of the opal when it was a rub. And here's the after footage, now it has the polish on. As I dop the back of the stone, I can't help but think about that script pattern on the face. I was so worried that the colour bar was going to be too thin and I'd accidentally grind through it. But it looks like it goes a lot deeper than I originally anticipated, which is fantastic. The reason I'm dopping the stone again and cutting the back is because I want to make sure it sits evenly when sitting on a surface. In case I ever do get it set into jewellery, I know that it's going to sit flat in the mounting. This job is relatively easy. It's just making sure that there's a singular point on the back of the stone where the weight is evenly distributed. And then of course rounding the edges to make it look nice and even and essentially have a cabochon on the back of the stone. It's quite satisfying to see the colours dancing underneath and just the grey potch on top. As I say, really quick and easy job. Now that's done, let's check out the final stone. Hey everybody, the cut of the stone is now complete, and as you can see it weighs 6.975 carats. There's a very good reason why I didn't weigh the stone before I cut it. I know it weighed roughly 7.3-ish carats at the start, but the reason I didn't weigh it is because I didn't want to get caught up in the idea of keeping the stone over a certain weight. This stone is joining my collection for obvious reasons. I'm not looking to sell it, I'm not looking to profit from it. This one is for me. And if I got caught up in the idea of making sure that the weight started with a 7 rather than a 6, I would have forgot the reason I bought the stone in the first place. And that's because I love it. It's got a plethora of different patterns, and I wanted to make sure that the face of the opal was spotless, inclusionless. I wanted to make it clean. And there were a couple of sand spots in the face, although invisible to the naked eye, under a loupe were very clear. And I didn't want that, so I made sure they were gone, and I made sure the dome was absolutely even, and by doing that, yes, I've lost the 7 carat mark, but that doesn't bother me. This opal has many good characteristics, and I'm going to list through them now. First of all, it's got beautiful Chinese writing or script pattern along the bottom. Just to the side is a very clear and distinct ribbon pattern, where each individual ribbon you can see very clearly, and as you roll the stone it looks like it strikes over the face of the opal, and I love that. Towards the top we have broad flash pattern. Just underneath is some pinfire and floral pattern, and there's also hints of cloverleaf pattern in two separate places on the face of the opal. That's an enormous amount of patterns for one single stone. There's hints of red, and the brightness is a 4 out of 5, which means in the shade you can still see everything. I've cleaned up the back just slightly to make sure that the stone sits well, and it has a medium dome as a result. That's an enormous amount of positives. Are there any negatives? As far as I'm concerned, none. I absolutely adore this opal, and I'm so glad I managed to get my hands on it, because I didn't have a Chinese writing script pattern opal for my collection, and now I do. One day I will show you my opal collection, but it's not quite finished. And that concludes today's video. And to summarise, I didn't weigh the stone because I didn't want to get hung up on the idea of keeping it above a certain weight, and I wanted to cut it to how I like it, and we did that. We managed to save all the patterns that were there. We didn't lose any of the patterns, and if anything, I think they became stronger after the polish, revealing just that little bit more of each of the pattern that I wanted to see. So if you've enjoyed today's video, please like it and comment down below with what you think. And remember to subscribe if you want weekly content. And before I sign off, I just wanted to say a massive thank you. Last week's video, I released some rough opal, and within 3 hours, all but one of the parcels sold. And I can't thank you guys enough. To the people that bought them, I really appreciate it. Buying from my website is a fantastic way to support my channel. It allows me to reinvest into more opal, giving you more content that I hope you're enjoying. Like always, there's going to be a link to that website in the description. So once again, thank you. And as always, I'll see you in a week's time.